Wait. Sorry, I wasn't expecting you so soon. There's a part 1 to this video where we go over the history of lo-fi and justify the choices I make in this video. But if you're just looking for a tutorial on how to make lo-fi, you're in the right place. But I'm not, so I'll get out of the way. Welcome to the track. This is FL Studio. Hopefully this doesn't look too daunting. It wasn't meant to be a super complicated beat, but I'm just going to walk through what I did and hopefully you'll sort of get it just by listening. So you've heard this piano in the video. It's just one of Ariel's freestyles. Because it was a freestyle, I had to stretch it on beat, and then I did some pretty simple chops. Came out sounding like this. So a couple of reasons why I'm choosing to show you how to sample instead of creating your own chords and melodies. One, because your chords and melodies were probably going to suck anyways. Probably. Unless you have a background in music composing or some basic understanding of music theory, it's probably going to be really difficult for you to feel your way through the process right off the bat. Like, trust me, it's going to be easier to make, so it'll be more fun. It'll sound more interesting because you'll be taking from people who are better than you. And it'll probably sound better overall just because the sample will be mixed by somebody else. Number 2, I think it's also a good introduction to this idea that burgeoning artists need to sort of get over, and that's thievery, stealing shit. Not in the most literal form, but sort of taking inspiration and being okay with taking samples and flipping them and sort of putting your own inspiration on them. The earlier you get over this hurdle, the easier it is to make music and to take inspiration from more interesting places. After the chops, I'm going to add like that lo-fi aesthetic, so I got a, again, low fidelity. We're going to make the sound crunchier and basically, again, shittier. These are the effects we have. First off, like EQ, it just cuts off some of the frequencies, so it just extreme for the bass, you don't really need to hear it. This is a sidechain, just makes the volume go down when the kick hits, so you can hear the kick better. That's that sound selection and trying to let trying to let each element shine through, even though there's so few. It's important to make space for it. This is what makes the sample itself lo-fi. Going again to sort of bring up that nostalgia that's coming through, I put a little bit of sketch cassette, so you heard it before, and now this is what it sounds like with it on. We can break up how we achieve lo-fi with both mixing techniques and in the sample itself. We were talking about intentionality, and even in a beginner beat like this, I think it's good to practice keeping it in mind. Whether it be emotion or a bounce or what you want the music to do to people, learning how to work towards a goal can help you make different genres of music. Do you want them to sit and think about the music and cry? Do you want them to feel it and dance? Do you want them to put it on in the background and cry while they work? In this example, the bittersweet sentimentality and nostalgic emotion is what we're trying to evoke with the music. How I thought this sample was appropriate for lo-fi and serviced my goal of evoking bittersweet nostalgia was the story that the chords told. The first chord is very warm and comforting. I'm realizing I'm going to be talking about this in terms of subjective feelings because I don't know anything about music theory. So the second chord feels like a question. So with warmth and homeliness, there's insecurity. That's sort of my take on bittersweet nostalgia, and that's been inspired by this sample that Ariel played and why I picked it to sample. So this plugin is doing a couple of things all in one, and it's techniques we've talked about within the video. So it's adding a little bit of audio degrading, lowering the fidelity of it. It's making it sound like it's being run through a cassette, like this cassette specifically. It's making it sound more warm and more nostalgic and like retro. You can achieve this with a bunch of other plugins. There are ways you can do it for free. This is just all in one and it does it a lot simpler, so I'm using it. Things like MDA degrade will do the same thing, you just have to fiddle around with it more, but that's what that's doing. That's the lo-fi aesthetic coming through the sample, and now we get onto the hip-hop side of lo-fi hip-hop. So when you're making lo-fi, we want something retro, so we're leaning more acoustic sounds. So when we pick a kick, we want it to be acoustic and live sounding. And then a snare. It's got acoustic in the name, so it's kind of a no-brainer to put it in. A hat. The drums go like this. But what you want, again, we talked about quantization, and you can kind of cheat it in FL Studio with this little knob here. It's called the swing knob. Basically sets things a little bit off beat to try to make it feel like it's been played by a human, because humans aren't perfect. So this is it without it on. So that's like super, and then this is like a little bit more off. It's only a little bit, but it's a great trick. The bass, super simple. It's just playing 2 notes, and it's the sub bass, so you can't really hear it. But again, it's not meant to be like an attention grabbing part of the beat. None of this is meant to be attention grabbing. So it kind of just services the fullness of the sound. And it's just that over and over, super simple. We were talking about that environmental interference. So there's like a bunch of examples you can use. Like you can use actual crackle from vinyl, or you can use like ambient noises from outside. And I just sort of went with rain. Again, bringing it back to intentionality, I think I went with this choice of rain because it's more location based, reinforcing that homeliness, which felt like a physical place. It feels like I'm somewhere where it's raining, rather than like hearing it off a vinyl with vinyl crackle or in the ambience of a city, which doesn't really feel like home to me. It also reinforces that insecurity, being outside in the rain. Just sounds like rain. Hopefully within this small beat, I've shown you how easy it is to make lo-fi and how easy it is to get into making music. Hopefully I've like reinforced the points that I've made within the video and in my I love it so much. A final mastering hack, you could say, that I forgot to record is this little man here. So the technical explanation of this is that it's a multi-band compressor, but you don't really need to know that. What you do need to know is that it has a little preset called LOFI, and that without it, your beat's gonna sound like this. Everything we've talked about, well, these all may seem like small, non-consequential decisions. That's actually the beauty of lo-fi. You can make fewer decisions. You can make it as complex as you want, but with the few decisions you have to make, you really have to make them count. The thing that I love about lo-fi is that within these small decisions, there's a lot of mileage you can get out of it. It can service music that's not in your face, but it can still be good music. I think for a lot of people, not being the center of attention, especially when you're learning a new skill, can be super helpful and conducive to your learning, and that's exactly what lo-fi is. This whole thing was a pretty beginner-friendly beat. Again, I used to make lo-fi as a complete beginner, and some of my first ever projects were some of the backing tracks to this video. That's why I wanted to emphasize this video as a starting place for people to go and start making music. There's very few elements, it practices good fundamentals, and there's less analysis paralysis. And with it, your beat's gonna sound like this. Welcome to the end of the video. Thanks if you've stuck around this long to listen to me ramble about lo-fi for 20 minutes. If you wanted even more caffeine and energy from me, we made our own music for a video game, and we played the game, so go check that video out if you want to see it. I hope this video was worth your time. I hope you learned something. Better yet, I hope you go out, metaphorically, and make a beat. Subscribe, share your thoughts. I'm just regurgitating what I see other people do on YouTube.